like Hollywood writing is trying to subvert tropes because it's cynical. I think there's just a lot of bad writers in Hollywood. I think it just comes down to people who aren't educated in writing. And I know this sounds like super condescending, as if I'm saying like, oh, there's like people who just are innately bad. But there's people in Hollywood, I think, who think that good writing comes from subversion of tropes. And a lot of it came, I think, unfortunately, because that there was a string of really high profile fictions that got their, I'm going to say, cultural fame from subversion of tropes, right? So one thing that comes to the mind immediately is Sopranos. Sopranos finale, I didn't watch the show, but Sopranos I'm pretty sure just like ended like in the middle of a sentence. And Sopranos is like hailed as like one of the best shows ever. And I know when it happened, people were just like not really happy about it at all. But now looking back in retrospect, people think that it was like a phenomenal way to like end the show. Of course, Game of Thrones, killing off main characters subverted those tropes. Technically, if we want to talk about like Lord of the Rings being a serious interpretation of fantasy, in a fantasy that teenagers and adults could enjoy, right, was kind of like a genre subversion. But Hollywood, I think, really is addicted to this idea, and TV too, is addicted to the idea of simply subverting things for the sake of subversion, whether or not it contributes to like a good story. And while I think that cliches exist in a modern context to be manipulated and played with, I don't think that we should be in a situation like, again, what happened with Game of Thrones, where you literally just say, oh, I don't care if this is like about storytelling. I care about if this is just going to be unexpected, because the unexpected isn't always the best option, right? And I think that's the problem. I don't think it's cynicism in Hollywood. I don't think there's like this kind of like idea that we can't adhere to old traditions in writing because they're flawed, which I think would be the cynical outlook. I think the actual outlook is people are simply uneducated about narrative writing, and they're trying to appeal to audiences because they think audiences only want to be surprised, right? Like, because that's what Western fiction largely is about. It's about the destination. And I've talked about this a little bit, where Eastern fiction is largely about the journey. And by definition, if your Western fiction is about destination, then you don't want your audience figuring out your destination ahead of time. Which would kind of like denote you putting a high level of effort into making some type of twist, right? To keep your ending hidden. And I think that has caused like undue effort to be put on making sure that like all these narratives that we interact with have some type of like, you know, like twist ending. And it's not in every single one. And I think there's a lot of stories that are really high quality that don't do that, but a lot of them do. And I don't think it works well in every case, because like, obviously, as you guys know, it's just like, is weird when like things just are subverted for no